Should professional athletes be prosecuted for their violent actions on the field? Has hiking gotten too expensive? And who's winning the war in Ukraine anyway? All that and more on this week's episode of the Info Hazard Podcast Show. I'm Dave. That's Dan. And this week we have a guest host with us again. Everyone's favorite, the Merchant Mariner, Sam, everybody. Merchant marining is all the rage, as in people seem to be taking out a lot of their rage on merchant mariners these days.
Iran is sending us little gifts in drone form. Trump has kept the waiver on the Jones Act, so we get this weird thing where we kind of have domestic protections, and all our U.S. flag companies are losing money because now they have to compete, and kind of a rough time.
Jones Act, boy, oh boy. Well, I was thinking of another theater where there's been a lot of maritime action. I don't know if you've heard about this, Sam. In the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, Ukraine over the last few weeks has struck almost 200 ships, 200 merchant mariner ships. I don't think they've sunk any of them, just kind of like, because, the payloads on their long-distance drones aren't spectacular. And I don't think they're trying to cause massive oil spills.
But at the start of the war, there was Ukraine had a huge harvest of grain, and Russia's control of the ocean there just meant the grain was rotting. And so there was kind of a big hustle to get that and the nitrate out that Ukraine exports. And Russia was just nope, we're not going to let Ukraine have any money. And that was part of why food costs kind of skyrocketed was they couldn't really get Ukraine's major exports of, I think, nitrate ammonia, which is used in fertilizer, and grain.
Yeah, just wheat. I mean, I think that Russia also is a major wheat exporter, so there's stuff other than just oil. Mm-hmm. Because you'd think that even a small payload from a drone ought to be able to cause some serious damage to oil boats.
They should go boom.
I think a lot of this is supplying Crimea, which has been borderline dire straits these days. So this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. Was there's kind of some crazy shit happening in the Ukraine war, and I only see it on my weird random YouTube channels. I don't see this on the news, so I wouldn't be surprised if this had gone totally under the radar for you guys. So let me know. Well, had you heard that in the last couple of weeks, Ukraine was bombing the shit out of Russian boats in the Sea of Azov?
I didn't. Plus, they're hitting a lot of refineries too, right? Deep inside Russia.
I'd heard about the refinery. It would just pop up as a YouTube video of oh, there's a refinery on fire in Russia.
Right, that too, and whatever Russian Amazon warehouse, and they also have a lot of this mid-range campaign where they can just blow up trucks and light logistics. Basically, they've been laying on the hurt pretty hard against Russia. And I don't know how good my sources are on this, how believable they are, but it seems a little bit like Ukraine is winning. That's what it seems like.
The U.S. State Department said Ukraine was winning relatively recently.
Okay, well then forget it.
Do you know, if they've been because last I heard they had retaken a small amount of territory in the summer offensive, but it sounds like a lot, but then when you look on a map, not much is moved.
Yeah, I don't think they've taken much territory yet. They probably would like to, but it's all very much mined, and I think that they're happy to just make life miserable for Russians and to play it as a war of attrition for a bit longer. I think summer is the months, if they're going to move, these are the months to move without too much mud. There is at least one other major piece of news from Ukraine that I also have not seen mentioned in my normal news sources, which is there are mass protests going on right now.
About Fedorov getting fired?
Yeah, okay, just apparently I'm teaching Danny absolutely nothing.
Well, I basically only know what I just said. He was the popular defense minister or somebody, and he was fighting with the army chief, and he got sacked.
Yeah, and basically he's a very popular, and it's kind of interesting. He was sort of known, he's in his 30s. He's not an old guy. There's this saying in Ukraine that they've had since Russia first invaded Crimea in 2014. You can't beat a large Soviet army with a small Soviet army. And in other words, they need to do things differently. And in this war, we've seen it a lot where they've been very innovative, especially with their use of drones. And I think Fedorov is well known for playing a big part in that. One interesting thing that I found was he promoted this app that soldiers in Ukraine use where they get points for killing Russians, and they can redeem those points to get supplies.
Holy crap, dude.
That is some Ender's Game.
I mean, it's quite sick, but it's also kind of interesting the reasons for this. I don't think it's just because Ukrainian soldiers weren't having any fun and so they needed to get points. I think it's Ukraine has trouble allocating supplies because there's so much corruption in their military. And this is, I think, a lot of the source of friction here, where the commander-in-chief of the military is probably pretty corrupt and didn't like flashy death apps replacing his friends pay friends handshake wink kind of system of graft. But that's kind of the story here.
But now we come to the most important part of any segment about this, right? Tell us what to think, David.
Tell you what to think. What to think is, hot damn, a lot's going on over there, and is none of this in the news? Why isn't this shit in the news? Anything I even see about this war is about some Russian strike that kills civilians. Another massive wave of drones kill civilians at gas stations and birthday parties in Ukraine. It's just very interesting. I don't know. Are you guys getting that also? Like when you're, I don't know, you guys consume weird news sources.
If it's on Reddit, I'll see it. But I don't really pay attention to too much mainstream news, to be honest. Like Fox, CNN, MSNBC. Usually I only watch a little bit of MSNBC if I'm at the gym, and it's like Rachel Maddow, and it's like, what has Trump done this week? Kind of vibe. Or what has Trump done today?
She's so scary. She's so scary.
Very terrifying.
Just definitely stressing out her audience.
That's what sells.
The other stuff I see on Yahoo, it's all about Iran and is it happening or not? I think a lot of U.S. news sources are probably if they're gonna have a war segment, they're probably gonna talk about, is the Iran war over? Is it starting? What's going on? Are we at war? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting. But, here at Info Hazard, we're trying to follow the trend lines, not the headlines. That's why I'm interested in shit that's okay, the trend is kind of accelerating. Whereas Donald Trump farted another tweet about this or that is clearly noise, right? Everything that comes out of his mouth is noise. Why do they even report on things he says? Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Speaking of 2 cents, how much does it cost to go for a hike?
All right. So my segment today, which is not as impressive as is Ukraine finally starting to win the war and scope.
But a little closer to home.
A little closer to home, probably a little less important.
The health and fitness and well-being of America. Will we all die fat on our couches, replaying Info Hazard again and again?
One of the things I've noticed is how everything, especially in Oregon, there just seems to be new fees, new taxes are getting passed. And one of the things is, especially in nature, we've got Trump and the Republicans. One of their big things was to open up selling of national forest and BLM land. And when they originally did that, not just timberland was open for sale, but waterfalls that are campsites built on top of them, ones that I go to yearly, they were in the sale for that. And it was how are these going to be sold? Who was going to be determined in the bidding process? No one really knew. It was just in the bill that they were going to sell it. So I just assumed it would have gone to some Hilton or something, and they would have built a wilderness resort there. What I'm focusing on is one thing I thought is people that live in America, we do have large amounts of public land that we have access to and we can recreate in. And a lot of it is kind of getting expensive to even go out and do it. For Oregon and Washington, back 20 years ago, you just showed up at the trail and hiked. That was it. Today, it's $10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's oh, I want to go do this thing. Now there's a $10 fee. Gas is $4.50, and everything just kind of adds up. And if you're like a lot of Americans, your discretionary spending is getting absorbed in your grocery bill and your house, your rental costs or your housing or your mortgage, saying, hey, I'm going to spend $12 a month on hiking. Well, that's like a Netflix subscription. That's literally Apple TV. Sorry, a little bit more, $15 a month to go hiking. It does kind of add up. But so back in 2006, I looked up for myself. Back in 2006, you could hike anywhere in Washington, Oregon for free. Now it is $45 a year for Washington, or $10 a day, and $60 a year for Oregon, or $10 a day, which is not a crazy amount, but it used to be free.
These national park passes costs, and does this relate to this, or these you're talking about even not national parks?
These are state parks currently. The national parks, it used to be $10 a day to $25 depending on the park. Now it's $20 to $35, but you can get an annual pass for $80. So the cost of getting all these passes just for myself would be, roughly $185. Where back in the day with a $50 national park pass, it would have just been 50.
So yeah. So I'd say it was never free.
Mm.
And it was just covered by our collective taxes, and they're moving the financial burden from the collective to people who actually use it.
I would agree with that. And when I looked at like the Discovery Pass, that was the original thought behind it. You get a Discovery Pass and you get it for the day, but even then it was like, okay, Discovery Pass was $40 and a day pass was $5. Now it's like, if you're sure, I don't mind like going with super hikers and making them pay it, but not everyone has a ton of money. And that seems to be like where I'm seeing kind of the bottom get priced out is sure, we can pass the burden around. For me, I have no problem paying it. But if you're poor, $10 to go on a hike for an activity when it used to be free just seems like we're pricing out a lot of Americans who have lost a lot of discretionary funding. For these passes and all that, like David brought up, that this stuff is like, it goes more to the user. But if the daily pass is too high, it kind of is a de-incentivizing to go out. For some people, it just becomes unaffordable to go do that.
That also could be like the tax burden shifting too. There's less funding, and now it's just fees for people who use it. So maybe it hasn't gotten more expensive to operate.
Yeah, if we're instituting basically a cost, there's already the cost of the vehicle you probably have to own. There's the gas to get out there, and then the $10 you want to park. It's just it feels like that. If you're getting an annual pass, that's fine. But if you're going once or twice, it does feel like they keep increasing because 3 years ago, it was $5 for a daily parking pass. It's something I've kind of noticed in more outdoor stuff, skiing, hiking, backpacking. There just seems to be a higher cost to do anything. And it makes me think that like these are going to become activities that where all Americans could have had a chance to enjoy our national parks and everything. We're just going to keep raising the bar until fewer and fewer of us actually get to enjoy it.
Yeah, this is true with any government service. And I think it's also just true in the economy at large that like more and more things are being sold to rich people because they're who has the money. And so you see like cheaper alternatives for things just disappearing because that's not profitable. Yep. Growing wealth inequality and concentrating political power. I think this is basically an inevitable consequence of it. Dan, your topic relates to professional sports.
Yeah, so I was watching the World Cup this past week, and
You
I watched
watched?
the finals.
You watched a sporting event?
I did. A sporting event was being watched in my home, and so in order to be social, I also watched the sporting event. But so anyway, for those who don't know, after the game, so during the game, there was quite a bit of roughness back and forth.
Mostly one direction. I don't know. Was that just me? Like,
Argentina seemed pretty physical.
Pretty physical.
There was a lot of grabbing.
But so anyway, at the end of the game, after the game was over, an Argentinian player basically tried to fight some of the Spanish players. There's some clips online. You can watch it. He's basically just attacking these dudes before his teammates drag him away. I was thinking about this, and I was basically like, why don't they charge him with assault at that point, right? Because he's just attacking some guy for no reason, really, right? Is he just a toddler? He can't control himself? It's so absurd.
Just like an emotional meltdown. Like, I get it. It's probably like the biggest event of his life. But still, why did you run over and attack somebody?
In no other job except for maybe police officer would this shit be acceptable, though, right? If you missed a big sale and you just started punching the client in the side of the head, they would fire your ass and you get charged with assault, right? Why is it different just because he's a soccer player?
Dude,
right?
Preach, Danny.
That's fair.
Yeah, go on. You're 100% right. I mean, there's obviously cases where it's part of in a boxing match. There's the things that are part of the sporting event itself, right? Because also, I mean, I think that this point kind of could apply to some actions taken during games too, where it's like a convenient excuse that like I was like in the heat of the moment. Boxing is an interesting one. That's like basically every boxing movie ever. The ref guy is like, all right, stop, and then the bad guy just like punches the good guy right in the face, like kicks him in the balls, and you're like, wait, but he said stop, so like it's not part of the game anymore, so like that's a felony.
Yeah, it's like, what's that? Like, would the ref yell stop, how long do you have to like pull your punch?
certain cases you can obviously see that this is assault, right? Like if he had waited till later that night and he went to the other guy's hotel room and he knocked on the door, and when he answered, he started punching him on the side of the head, like he would clearly get charged with assault, right? So there's like some gray area. And so I was looking into this and like whether they do get charged ever. And so the answer is yes, sometimes, but it's basically like countries like prosecuting their own soldiers for war crimes. It's like basically only in the most like egregious cases do they get punished, and only in like the lightest possible sense. So here's some examples. So in 2004, in an NHL game, Vancouver Canucks forward Todd Bertuzzi sucker punched Colorado Avalanche forward Steve Moore from behind, driving his head into the ice, which caused 3 fractured vertebrae and a concussion, ending Moore's career. And he ended up, Bertuzzi pleaded guilty to criminal assault causing bodily harm, and he received 1 year of probation and 80 hours of community service.
He Seems kind of light for ending a guy's career.
Yeah, I mean, can he be
so
sued?
there was a civil settlement afterwards also for lost wages and stuff.
I think that would be
ended up
pretty
winning.
big.
Yeah, he was suing for like $60 million or something.
Right.
Because it was his first year of being in the NHL, and then it was already over, like partway through. And so here's a crazy incident.
The light of your screen is glowing so brightly against your glasses.
It's the glow of enlightenment that I'm bestowing upon our viewers.
Okay, all right. Good, go on. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. So this is an incident you guys may have heard of. It's called Malice at the Palace.
Oh yeah.
This is
so
the fans fought with the players, right?
Yeah, so this is so basically there was a small scuffle between players, and one of the players, Ron Artest, went to cool off, and he was laying down on the scorer's table, and a fan threw a drink at him and hit him with a drink, and he rushed into the stands to fight the guy who he thought threw the drink, who was actually 2 guys over from the guy who did throw the drink. And so he started fighting that guy, and other fans started fighting him, and his teammates ran in, and everybody was fighting everybody. So the incident quickly escalated into a large brawl that spread from the stands to the court and involved fans and players from both teams. The game was abandoned and never completed, as a massive police presence was called to the venue to restore order. As far as consequences, after the game, the NBA suspended 9 players for a total of 146 games, leading to the players losing collective $11 million in salary. And 5 players were charged with assault and were eventually sentenced to 1 year of probation and community service.
Hey.
So, yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of probation up here in these.
Ron Artest is a pretty interesting guy. He went on to go play it for the Lakers, and I've lived in LA. He changed his name to Meta World Peace. That was like the original rebranding to Meta. He has a foundation for people to get therapy, and I think he understands a lot of what's wrong. I remember very famously this is one of the Lakers, one of the years with like Kobe and Pau Gasol when they won the NBA title, and Ron Artest was on the team, and he was being interviewed post game. Like I think he hit like a big shot or something, and he's like, "I just want to thank my therapist." What he said in his interview, he seems to understand his mistakes.
Well,
yes,
good for him.
Seems to have learned from them.
Yeah, that's what we want when people fuck up, is that they learn from their mistakes and don't just keep doing the same shit all over again.
Yeah.
It's a rare quality. And so this is one that I had never heard of, which is, so this was another NBA incident, which is Kermit Washington punching a guy named Tom Jonovich. Have you guys heard of this?
Never heard of either of them. Kermit Washington?
So this was back in like the 70s or 80s. So Kermit Washington hit Tom Jonovich with a short right-hand punch. Tom Jonovich was like trying to break up the fight, so he was like running over, and Washington thought he was going to get involved in the fight, so he punched him. The blow, which took Tom Jonovich by surprise, fractured his entire face about 1/3 of an inch away from his skull, and left him unconscious in a pool of blood in the middle of the arena.
Sorry, what game is this?
It's an NBA game.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is another NBA game. So Abdul-Jabbar, as in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, likened the sound of the punch to a melon being dropped onto concrete. Tom Jonovich had a reputation around the league as a peacemaker, and players involved say that right after he collapsed, the absence of sound at the arena, which was filled with shocked fans, was the loudest silence you've ever heard. Reporters heard the sound of the punch all the way in the second-floor press box. Tom Jonovich was able to get up and walk around, however, and on the way into the locker room, he saw Washington. Tom Jonovich says that he became aggressive and asked Washington why he punched him. Washington yelled something inaudible about Cunard, and they were broken up by 2 security personnel. Tomjanovich was in no condition to fight despite his aggression. Besides having the bone structure of his face detached from his skull and suffering a cerebral concussion and broken jaw and nose, he was leaking blood and spinal fluid into his skull capsule, and his skull was fractured in such a way that he could taste spinal fluid leaking into his mouth. He later recalled at the time of the incident that he believed the scoreboard had fallen on him.
The scoreboard had fallen on him?
Yeah, that's what he thought. Like, that's how hard he got hit, is he was like, it wasn't even a guy that was, a huge piece of equipment. So when these guys who are, 7.5 feet tall punch, they can really get some torque behind it.
My gosh. Okay, so consequences?
He was suspended for some amount of games, but it was less games than the guy with the broken face was out for getting his broken face back together. And he was not charged, or he was not ended up convicted of any crime or anything.
If I punched somebody and fractured their face, I think I would go to jail. They wouldn't be like, Sam, all right, we got to get you off the ship for a couple. You're off this rotation. We'll see you back next year. It would be, Sam, you're going. The police, the state police, are waiting to arrest you at the port of call.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So do you think this is purely just rich people get away with shit? Do you think this is just athletes get away with this, and even if all these guys had $15 to their name, the police would be treating it the exact same? Or what do you guys think? Especially because there's video of all these things, right?
Yeah, I
it's
think
not like the facts are in dispute, although apparently they replayed this clip a lot and they omitted all the context and they just showed him punching him in the face. And so he became completely vilified and he got traded away, and everybody in his town was hating him and wouldn't speak to him. His pregnant wife, her OBGYN, dropped her because she was his wife. Level of hatred, which is a pretty insane reaction also.
Yeah, that's kind of messed up. At some point, you'd rather just go to prison for a month rather than have your wife unable to see a doctor when she's pregnant.
Yeah.
So yeah, rich and famous probably both help in this case, I would guess. Yeah.
Because I think there are plenty of actors that we have done bad things. But I think this is with athletes, it's a little special because I think it happens somewhat frequently and it's all on video, like you were saying. Throwing a punch, there's no excuse, really, for that.
Yeah, certainly not in an NBA game.
All right. So, in conclusion,
I had one more question for Danny.
Okay.
So, Danny, there was a rather infamous. This isn't throwing a punch, but I remember hearing about it when Mike Tyson fights. What's his name? Vander Holyfield's ear off, and there's that famous photo of the 3 scared cops that don't arrest him. He didn't go to jail for that.
Pretty crazy.
The UFC will sometimes have during a weigh-in, the fighters are jawing at each other, and then somebody throws a punch. And I think guys have gotten injured and haven't been able to fight during the weigh-in. And I don't think any of them got arrested. And it's well, that's not in a ring or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
I
think
to defend themselves.
I would guess that for some of these sports, leagues try to make sure there are no legal consequences, because that whole intense competitive violence thing is part of the show. They're yeah, see, they're just such assholes. They just go in and assault each other all the time. They get away with it. What the heck? I'm so mad. I'm forced to tune in to the next bout just to see him get his butt kicked.
I think that was Logan Paul's entire strategy. Watch me. I might lose this fight. Mike Tyson or Floyd Mayweather may actually hurt me.
All right. Well, so in conclusion, we should arrest criminals and deport them, Dan? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean...
the Argentinian soccer team?
I mean, what is ICE doing, dude? All these Hispanics playing their ethnic games on our soil, dude?
Oh,
they got the work cut out for them.
All right. Well, it's been another wonderful episode. Thanks for tuning in, and watch out. Don't have too much information this week. Yeah.
Also, if you're playing sports, watch out. It's crazy out there.